Good day folks, Sean here from Air Photography. So in today's video, we're going to be discussing the Air 2S and the possibility of an Air 3. Now this is just a discussion video. There's been no indication from DJI that there will be an Air 3 at all. And that kind of raises a question, is there even room for an Air 3 in the current DJI lineup? If so, what kind of features could we expect DJI to add? Or what features would we want as consumers? Now, the latest version of the Air series is the Air 2S, and it's almost 2 years old. It got released in the spring of 2021. Before that, the Air 2 was released in the spring of 2020. And if DJI was to continue its tradition of releasing an Air series in the spring, that means we could potentially see an Air 3 sometime at the end of April. Now, as mentioned, we haven't seen any leaks or talk or rumors of an Air 3, so I really find that highly unlikely. So the big question is, and there's been a lot of discussion about it, is whether there's even a spot in the current DJI lineup. Does it make sense for DJI to release an Air 3? Now, a lot of people's opinion is that the Mavic 3 Classic that was released last fall is basically replacing the Air lineup. They don't think there's going to be a new Air 3. I myself don't think that is the case. In fact, I'm confident that there is still a place for an Air 3. If we take a look at the current lineup and the pricing, the Mini 3 Pro with the standard RCN1 controller comes in at $759. The current Air 2 is $999, and the Mavic 3 Classic jumps all the way up to $1,599, basically $1,600. So if they were to get rid of the Air 2 lineup and not release anything new, that means we're jumping from a price tag of $759 all the way up to $1,600. I'm pretty confident that DJI will fill that with a newer updated drone. Now, in my opinion, the Air 2S is almost the perfect drone. This has been a very popular choice with many people. This has probably been one of my favorite drones and probably would continue to be my favorite drone if the DJI Avata had not been released. I think that now is definitely my favorite. But the Air 2S is just a nice marriage of price and size, features and quality. The video quality that this thing can capture is absolutely stunning. The flight performance, the safety features, the intelligent flight features, really it's just a great little drone for the size and price. But as mentioned, it is 2 years old and technology has changed a little bit. So there definitely are some improvements that DJI could make. Improvements that would maybe entice some people who own the Air 2S upgrade to an Air 3. So the first thing I would like to see on an updated model is increased flight time. The Mavic 3 is rated for 46 minutes. The Mini 3 Pro, I believe, is 47 minutes, whereas the Air 2S here is rated at 31 minutes. So there definitely is some improvements that could be made there. If they could increase the flight time of the Air 3 to 46 or 47 minutes, or perhaps even they could push it up to 48 minutes, that would be very compelling to a lot of people. Now, another upgrade they could add to the Air 3 is USB-C charging, similar to how they've done it with the Mini 3, the Mavic 3, and the DJI Avata. Getting rid of that big, clunky power brick and replacing it with just a simple USB-C charger would definitely be an improvement. If you're a person who owns multiple DJI drones, having one simple USB-C charger, being able to charge up all your drones, especially if you're traveling and you're taking a few drones with you, that would definitely be very beneficial. Nothing worse than having to pack several power bricks when you're bringing a couple different drones with you. So hopefully that's something that they do, and I imagine they will with the Air 3. Now the camera on the Air 2S is actually pretty phenomenal, but there is some improvements that they could make to it. Myself, I'm happy with the 1-inch sensor. I don't think they need to jump to a 4/3 sensor like the Mavic 3. That would make the overall footprint of the drone a little bit bigger. I think on a drone like this, a 1-inch sensor is more than adequate. They could increase the resolution of video, perhaps up to 6K. They could increase the megapixels when taking photos. Most likely the Air 3 would have a fixed aperture just like the Air 2S, but they could make it a smaller aperture, maybe 1.7 compared to 2.4. Similar to what they did with the Mini 3. That would allow for perhaps a little bit better low light performance. They could add some extra intelligent flight features, adding night mode like they did with the Mavic 3. And perhaps they could reintroduce some form of HDR video. Of course, you can do HDR with the Air 2S, but you have to film in that HLG format, which is really tricky to color grade to get it to look good. Having an intelligent flight mode that automatically does HDR, I think would be beneficial in many different ways. Now, another thing they could do, just like the Mini 3, is that they could have the camera shoot vertically. I know not everybody's into shooting vertical video, but for those people who are building social media channels, things like TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, shooting vertical video can be fairly important. So there are some improvements that they could do with the camera to make it a compelling upgrade. Now when it comes to the size of the Air 2S, a lot of people find that very appealing when compared to the Mavic 3. As you can see here, there is quite a size difference. And if you're looking for a drone that's a little bit more portable, travel friendly, especially if you're going to be out for the day backpacking or sightseeing, or you're traveling and you need to pack light, having a smaller drone can be very beneficial. Perhaps with an updated Air 3, they could shrink it down even a little bit more, not by much, but just a little bit to make it a little bit lighter and easier to pack. Now, you don't want it to go too light because then you're going to lose some wind performance. Now, of course, the Mini 3 Pro does quite a good job in the wind, but drones like the Air 2S or the Mavic 3 perform just that much better in the wind just due to their weight. So we don't want it to get too much smaller or too much lighter, but I think there's some room there that they could shrink it down just a little bit. Now, another thing that I would really like to see on an updated Air 2S is better obstacle avoidance. Myself, when flying, quite often I have obstacle avoidance turned off, or I'm in sport mode where I don't have any obstacle avoidance. But there are situations where that obstacle avoidance is very important. When you're flying backwards or sideways, you're doing any type of tracking or point of interest. And if they could introduce some fisheye obstacle avoidance sensors like they did with the Mavic 3 here, put that technology on an upgraded Air 3, that would allow for good front-facing, rear-facing, and sideways obstacle avoidance. That's one thing that the Air 2S doesn't have. It has good front and rear obstacle avoidance, but the sideways is lacking. Now, of course, that's a feature of the Mavic 3, so they're not going to make it quite as good or as robust, but they could even just exclude the top-facing sensors and just have the front, the rear, and the side. I think that would be a good compromise. Now, when it comes to tracking on the Air 2S, it's not bad, but it's still using the ActiveTrack 4.0 system. So upgrading the Air 3 to ActiveTrack 5, which is a little bit more robust, would be a nice upgrade as well. Now, lastly, a feature I would love to see on the Air 3 is DJI Goggle 2 support. Goggle compatibility with various drones have been rumored now for the last year, and we haven't seen it come to fruition yet. I know not everybody wants to fly their Mavic drone with goggles, but there are a lot of people who would, including myself. Now, I wouldn't fly every flight with goggles, but I think there'd be those situations where it'd be either fun to fly or even beneficial. I would just like the option to be able to do that. So perhaps maybe the Air 3 is finally the drone that DJI will bring that to reality. So that's basically it. Those are the improvements and upgrades I would like to see on a DJI Air 3. Let me know down in the comments what upgrades and features you would like to see, features that would perhaps persuade you to upgrade. Now lastly, before I go, most likely if DJI does release an Air 3, they're going to include a bundle with the RCN1 controller, and most likely they'll have a bundle with the DJI RC. And with the last couple drones DJI has released, they've also released just a drone-only package. Because many of us already own these controllers, we don't need to pay again for another one. But what I am hoping happens is that if DJI does release an Air 3, on launch day they're going to have all the packages available to purchase. Quite often the drone-only package tends to get released months down the road, and for people who want the new drone right away, that kind of forces them to have to buy another controller. So it would be nice on launch day to have the option to purchase drone only right from day one. As mentioned, let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are. Do we need an Air 3? And if so, what features and upgrades would you like to see on it? Hopefully you enjoyed this video and got some value out of it. Give it a thumbs up if you did. It's always greatly appreciated. And we'll see you in the next one.